Hey, and welcome to End User Tools Presents Introduction to ArcGIS Collector. I'm your host, Jenny Sauer. I'm a mobile solutions specialist here with APHIS PPQ End User Tools Group. I support field operations in mobile data collection and other solutions, including use of the ArcGIS Collector application. Some of you have used this application for years, and it seems to change just a tiny bit every year. And for some of you, this is brand new. So if you have an iPad assigned to you, feel free to take it out and follow along, but you should not expect to directly apply this process demonstrated today. What we'll do is overview the process of using ArcGIS Collector just so you get a starter view, but also I will demonstrate using a sample map designed for training use. You will not have access to this. We'll answer questions such as, why do we use this application? What is ArcGIS Collector? How do you get access to maps that you will use to collect mobile data? And a sneak peek at a sample training map.
You might recognize this guy from the iPad Basics webinar. It's just too important to leave out as we transition from paper to electronic data collection. To back up from the question of why ArcGIS Collector, let's first think about why data is being collected electronically. Why? It reduces time spent inputting written data into an electronic source later. It increases accuracy and consistency. Standard core data fields are being used for programs across all states for that consistent and accurate data collection. And this electronic data collection allows near live monitoring, reporting, and decision making. You get to learn something new, and the bottom line is that we better protect our nation's food. It means the decisions that are made based on the data that you all collect are leveraged against better data at the right time. That said, you are, each and every one of you, important to that cause. So why ArcGIS Collector? There are a lot of ways to collect data electronically. You may have some come to mind right off the bat. End User Tools is constantly researching new innovations and creations along this front. We consider program needs and recommend the best current match. If Esri ArcGIS Collector has been configured for collecting data in your program, you can be sure it is a result of much time, energy, and experience involving many minds. Let's talk a little bit about what the ArcGIS Collector is and what to expect it to do. What is ArcGIS Collector? ArcGIS Collector is a mobile data application that pairs a map with a data form. Simple as that. You may have a map that looks similar to this that you can zoom in and out on. Your iPad will read your GPS accuracy. You may have additional layers enabled. You will have these other features, and a handy one might be the legend, which will show you what some of these symbols represent on the map as you add data. I'll close that. The plus button down at the bottom right opens your data form. It may look any way, depending on how it's set up. And you choose an option and select using your finger from the data form to complete those fields. This is very similar to filling out a contact in a cell phone. Those with the red star next to them are required fields. The keyboard opens and you fill it out. Once it's completed, you would submit that data. It's grayed out now, but the top right has a submit button. The blue dot is my location, and you can see I'm not currently meeting very good GPS accuracy, but there's messaging changing as the satellites are reached. When you tap an existing data set, you can edit the data form and update the point, and then resubmit that information. I'll just edit my last name and hit done. And then you see that blue submit button there. I'm going to go ahead and submit that update. Now I have a sync button, these two arrows. One is data coming in, another is data that I will push out. And to sync this, I press the sync button, well connected to Wi-Fi, and the information that I've updated will then be pushed out to that online hosted map service in the APHIS GIS portal. In addition, it's pulling in any data that's been added to that map that's hosted. What do I mean by hosted map service? What is this APHIS GIS portal? Let's talk about that next. I know I've just introduced some vocabulary that you may not be familiar with, or perhaps you've heard these terms but are unclear. We really can't talk about the APHIS GIS portal without just describing the life of a map. A map is created from a desktop by the End User Tools group in PPQ. It may differ in your case depending on your program, but End User Tools creates a map that is then hosted or lives in the Esri cloud. And the APHIS GIS portal is just one of those cloud platforms. Then the map creator shares the map or organizes these maps by groups, and by sharing a map to a group, shares to the members of that group. Your supervisor would request that you have a user account in the portal and also request that you are added as a member to the correct group. Because this map is shared to that group, then it is shared with you. When you are connected to the internet or Wi-Fi on your iPad device, you must sign into your APHIS GIS portal user account, and the Collector app will then list all the groups that you are a member of. Here's a view of my main menu in the Collector app. Yours may look much different. You are then able to collect data in that map live while connected to the internet. Collecting data live means all data collection and all edits made to the map from your mobile device are submitted immediately or live to that hosted map in the APHIS GIS portal. ArcGIS Collector is also enabled for disconnected data collection. While connected to Wi-Fi, you can download an area of interest, then disconnect from Wi-Fi to collect data in the field. This is similar, in theory, to tearing out a page of a library book and making notes in the margins. Obviously, your edits remain on your page of that paper. Similarly, this is like checking out an area of interest, a copy of a piece of that map that's hosted in the cloud. Your edits then remain on your device until you connect back to Wi-Fi and perform a data sync or synchronization. All data you collect lives in the map on your iPad until you perform a data synchronization to that hosted map in the Esri cloud, or in our case, the APHIS GIS portal. But the takeaway first step is that you will need an account in the APHIS GIS portal with a sign-in in order to access your map. So we're going to discuss how to access these maps via these two topics. First, an APHIS GIS portal user account, and then how to locate and open a map that has been shared with a group of which you are a member. We've talked about why ArcGIS Collector. We've talked about what it is, a data collection tool that pairs mapping functions, and we've talked a tiny bit about how to access it through the APHIS GIS portal. This is the part the supervisors need to get involved in. In order to gain access to the APHIS GIS portal, your supervisor must request a user role change. How can they find that documentation? It's located and hosted on the APHIS GIS SharePoint site, and for your convenience, although it is internal, that link is found in the description below. Supervisors, if you need help finding this document, you may also submit a support request at the end of this video. Your supervisor requests a user account in the APHIS GIS portal. Now you have an account, and the username and password is your e-authentication username and password. So here we are with my iPad. I'll open Collector, and you're presented with a sign-in. We want this lower sign-in with ArcGIS Enterprise. It's another name for the APHIS GIS portal, Enterprise. We'll select that. At this point, you would need to, on first signing in, specify the new URL, which is this URL listed because I've done it before. So then Collector holds it for you in its memory. So I'm going to go ahead and select this existing URL and sign in using my e-authentication. So again, now I must pick the enterprise login and this blue button eAuth account. And here we are at the eAuth screen. And Collector locates the last map that I was using. In your case, this may be different, so I'll hit these back buttons until I get the main map menu. As you can see, ArcGIS Collector organizes things nicely on this Maps menu by category. The first being current, or the map that you were last using, followed by on device, and these are offline areas you have downloaded to the device. They're also indicated underneath the map title by the term offline areas. Each of these little titles and icons are called a map card. If you've found your map already in this screen, you can simply tap on it to open it. In this case, I have an offline area I can open. Let's go back. What if you don't see the map you need? You'll need your map title or some portion of it at least to get you started. You want to be sure you're in the right map when you're collecting data, so be sure you have the full map title, and the group name helps as well. If you tap and pull down, Collector has a little search box here, and it's highly sensitive to locating things based on even just a few letters. Let's say I'm looking for the Grasshopper Mormon Cricket map. I can put in just a few letters, and it locates all of those maps shared with me. I know I promised you a sneak peek, and sneak peek we will. As a member of End User Tools in PPQ, I am a member of a Collector app testing group, and you can see there it is right there. And there are 2 maps in this group shared to me for testing. Sometimes it'll take a minute to load. And I want to show you the difference between these 2 map cards located here within this group. One indicates I've already downloaded an offline area, and you can see there's a little caret here which allows me to enter that map and find that offline area. The other doesn't say offline areas as part of the messaging here, and it's a training map. I can see it all caps, and instead of that caret there are these 3 dots. So remember that whole disconnected workflow? Well, connected to the internet download map areas? Well, I am connected to the internet, and it's a good one. It's my home internet, so I'll show you the process of downloading a map area quickly. You will select these 3 dots and then select Add Offline Area. There is a whole video available on downloading offline areas, which you should definitely watch if you need more information on this. So this will just overview the process. You'll have to choose a level of detail. It defaults to room, which is way too far in, and as you can see there's lots of options here. I'll choose street, and then you want this little box that's hard to see because it's so zoomed in to outline the area of interest you want. So you also need a central location for this map area. This little arrow marker here will find you, and then I like to use that and then kind of zoom back out again. See that box? So here I'm going to center it on Fort Collins. I'm going to fill this little window with my box and then select Download Area. And it's going to give it an automatic name, and it's going to give you an indicator of progress and an indicator of the status of that map area. So I'm just going to let that go, but that's how you would create a map area in a map that does not currently have one. Here in the one that already had one, we only have a caret. What if we want to add another map area? Well, let's select this caret. And now this is the map area that I've already downloaded within it. And now the 3 dots is up here within this list of map areas, which are categorized as on the device, so you know that. And now this 3 dots which Esri calls the overflow menu, has the option to add an offline area. So we could do the same thing here within and add a different area or maybe a different level of detail. The next step in the disconnected mode workflow is to disconnect from the internet. So I'm going to do that and collect some data. Of course, this form is totally up to the person who configured the map for you, so you may see a different kind of base map look. All kinds of things could look a little bit different. But again, remember to start collecting data, we tap this blue plus sign and that'll open a data form. This data form may not open on a whole range of options to start with, but this one does. And so to start, I'm just going to select a random option. You may just open to a data form, and again the form will look different as well. These starred fields are required, so anytime you see the red asterisk after, it's a required field. GPS accuracy in my basement is not great, so we've got a red circle around me. And this submit button is grayed out. And there are two reasons for that submit button not to turn blue. One is what we just mentioned, this GPS not meeting requirements, and the other is somewhere in this data form a required field is not completed. So not completing all required fields or not meeting GPS accuracy will mean that you cannot submit that point. It can be frustrating, but those are the two reasons to keep in mind. So once we have submitted a point, we will get what you saw earlier. I'm going to discard it, where this little dot kind of appears under this outgoing arrow, and that indicates that there is an edit that lives in our map on our device that needs to be synchronized back to that hosted map. So we'll see these collect and we can review them over here. They'll list as pending edits, which could end up being quite a list for you over the course of a day. And then at the end of the day, we'll go back to the office or to a location where we have strong Wi-Fi. I'll turn the Wi-Fi back on, connect back to the internet, and then the last step of the process is to hit this sync button and then actually decide to sync this local edit. As you can see, the messaging is really clear. It's not synced. There's one local edit, and I have it listed here. You want to be sure the auto sync is not on, and hit the blue sync button with your finger to synchronize that data. This is a great thing to do at the end of the day when you have to check in with supervisors or each other, or to report any issues that you experience during the day, and then you just come back and check on it, and it will indicate once done that the sync was complete. So there you go, an introduction to ArcGIS Collector. Let's review quickly. Why ArcGIS Collector? Remember, that's based on program needs and assessment from management and lots of heads that come together to decide that's the best way to collect your program's data electronically. What is ArcGIS Collector? ArcGIS Collector collects data from a mobile application and attaches it to a point, line, or polygon on a map. It's a map-based data collection tool. How do you access the maps in ArcGIS Collector? You will need an APHIS GIS Portal user account, which is obtained through your supervisor. It's your supervisor's job to request that user account, and you will need to be a member of a group if that's how the map is shared. So you will need a user account in the APHIS GIS Portal and membership to a group. Remember this graphic with the life of a map? Starts with a desktop application and a GIS specialist or professional creating a map and then hosting it in the Esri cloud, in our case the APHIS GIS Portal, which is then accessed from your device by way of either live access while connected to Wi-Fi or while disconnected if you've downloaded an offline map, which brings us to the disconnected mode workflow. Remember this? You start by connecting to the internet, downloading a map area, disconnecting from the internet to go collect data in the field, and then at the end of the day, reconnect back to a strong Wi-Fi signal and synchronize that data back. Remember when we had a sneak peek? There were a couple tricks that you saw there too. What causes the Submit button to remain grayed out, not allowing you to submit that data? Two things, remember? The GPS accuracy not being met, or a required field missing in your data form. Always be sure your data form is complete before submitting. I like to check things like date and make sure that I'm being consistent. Maybe you watched this as part of a review, and maybe this was new to you. If you want, you can always rewind and review pieces of this video. Whatever this video did for you, I hope you learned something new. And the quiz will be sure that you've learned what we need you to know. So please take the quiz, and you will receive an email certifying that you have completed this course, which you're welcome to pass on to your supervisor. Together we've covered a lot in a short time, but what if you still need some help? CECIT supports APHIS iPads from retainment to retirement, from start to finish. So if you have iPad issue or issues with the ArcGIS Collector, perhaps installing it or having it work properly, open a ticket with CECIT. We all have these desktop icons that provide access to that help. If you have problems understanding the application or need some help finding more training or anything like that, follow this hierarchy of going to your supervisor first. Your supervisor may further direct you to a local field GIS specialist or to this email, webgis.connect@usda.gov, which is monitored by a group of admins and will surely get you the answers you need.